Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you might be on this planet of ours. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody who is joining us here on the channel this evening. This is a special broadcast of this program. We don't usually come on the air on Sunday nights or even on weekends unless something is going on. I'm going to immediately right now, this just happened, I'm going to immediately right now take you over to the USGS map. Why am I going there? Because there's been a lot of activity that we need to discuss, and that is preeminently what we're going to do right now. We just had another earthquake, a major earthquake down in the Kermadec Islands. This is one of the reasons that I want to go here right now. This was a 7.3 magnitude earthquake down here in the Kermadec Islands. Now again, look at the small swarm that has developed and the other swarms up here in the South Fiji Islands and even over in Tonga today. This is Pangai, Tonga. This is a 5.1 earthquake that happened earlier last night. Okay? 5.1 magnitude earthquake in Pangai, Tonga last night. This earthquake just happened. 7.3 magnitude earthquake here in the Kermadec Islands. Now folks, I just got notified of a 7.0 earthquake that hit New Zealand just a few minutes ago. I don't have any confirmation of it yet. It's not up on the USGS map. Let me see if I can locate it on my other device here. This is news. This is breaking news if it indeed happened. I'm going to my device. I'm bringing up my map right now. Earlier today, or earlier this evening, we had an earthquake over in the South Sandwich Islands. That was big enough. Okay, I do not have anything in New Zealand right now. Okay, I do not show anything in New Zealand right now. However, north of New Zealand, I have the 7.3 magnitude earthquake that they just told me about just a few minutes ago. But they just said, I just got the notification that there was a 7.0 earthquake in New Zealand. It hasn't registered. However, look what they have shown us. Nothing. Not a thing in New Zealand at all. Look at all the earthquakes in New Zealand right now. Okay? This is evidence that USGS is lying to us again. This is not the first time. They almost never talk to us about any earthquakes at all over here in New Zealand. The ones that I really worry about here are over here, or right here. Why am I worried about that? Because this is Topo Volcano. See that lake there? It's Topo Lake. It's at the top of Topo Volcano. It's a super volcano down there in New Zealand. Down in New Zealand today. We've had a 2.33 and a 2.22 over on the southern end of Topo Volcano. They're always getting hit with earthquakes and tremors there. Always. Almost always. Now the other thing I want to show you is something else here that came to me last week, or actually on Thursday or Friday, that I failed to talk about, and I apologize for it. Last week, right here, Christchurch, New Zealand. This is over on the South Island of New Zealand. There was a 5.1 earthquake there. A large 5.1 magnitude earthquake, Christchurch, New Zealand. Okay, I'm sorry I did not talk about it. It's right here. Christchurch, New Zealand has been hit with many earthquakes. The last earthquake that I remember hit in Christchurch, New Zealand in the early 2000s. I don't remember the exact year, but it was a major earthquake and it shook the place, killed people, and destroyed part of the city. That's how bad it got. Last week we had a 5.1 earthquake here. Okay? We just got told about a 7.0 that hit here. Okay? But this came through just about 5 minutes before that. A 7.3 earthquake. Major 7.3 earthquake here in the Kermadec Islands. The only good thing about that, it's a bird sanctuary. Nobody lives here. Nobody at all lives here, and the only way you can get to most of these islands is on boat, only at high tide. Only at high tide. Because the volcanic rocks that surround each and every one of the Kermadec Islands are so deadly that if you tried to approach it on boat near low tide, your boat would either be punctured by the rocks and sink and you die, or you would not get there at all. The only time you can get there is at high tide. And there are scientists occasionally that go through there and get over there to check on the birds, but it is not any place that anyone lives. That is the only good thing about this earthquake. Now, this is not the first time we've had earthquakes here. About 4 years ago, there were many 7.0, 7.4, 7.6 earthquakes. Major earthquakes, swarms of major earthquakes that hit here in the Kermadec Islands. So far we've had one 7.3, and I hope and pray that's all that happens. Over here, further to the northwest, this is also in the Kermadec Island region, a 5.0 earthquake. It was a 10-kilometer deep earthquake. Over here, this is also a 10-kilometer deep earthquake, 4.9, 5.0. They have it listed as a 4.9. You know USGS lies about it. There is a 0.9 society where they have a larger earthquake. They downgrade it because they don't want to admit that there's that many earthquakes around, that many large earthquakes around. I'm surprised they haven't done it with this yet. Again, this is a 7.3 earthquake that is hit in the Kermadec Islands tonight. Major earthquake. And I believe that this may be the only one that will hit. As we talked about last week, there was a 4.6, 4.7 earthquake, but because of the depth, it was 600 plus kilometers deep. I pointed out to you at that point in time that when we added the depth to magnitude convergent chart, it became a larger earthquake, a much larger earthquake. And actually, I believe it was a 5.3, 5.4, that's what it was, and it became nearly a 7.0 earthquake. And we said at that time that energy would go north, south, east, or west, and it has here. We have a 7.3 earthquake here in the Kermadec Islands tonight, and maybe even a 7.0 once they get around to admitting what is going on. But the other reason I want to talk about this, let me show you a couple more earthquakes here. This one is over south of Japan in the Bonin Islands. This is also 5.2, 10 kilometers deep. Okay? Over here south of here, this is over on the southwestern side of Luzon Island, Philippines. Okay? This is a 5.2 large earthquake. However, before that, look what happened up here just offshore of Luzon Island. This was just probably 20 miles off of Luzon Island. Here we have a 5.3 earthquake, a large 5.3. So Luzon Island over on the northeast side has had a 5.3, and on the far southwestern side, over here on the far southwestern side, on the fault zone, we had another 5.2. Okay? Now remember, this whole area, including the other area of the South Pacific where New Zealand is, okay? This whole area is part of a huge fault zone, a huge subduction zone involving 7 different plates subducting. Okay, now they finally come out with this. There's a 7.3, and here's another 7.3. It came out in my ear as a 7.0, so now we have 2 7.3s in the Kermadec Islands tonight. Okay, that's big. That is huge. And if this thing continues, we may have multiple 7s here in this area. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Okay, this may be a reoccurring thing. I don't believe it will, but it could be. Like I said, over here in the South Pacific, or South Atlantic, excuse me, here in the South Atlantic, in the South Sandwich Islands, we had a 5.4 magnitude earthquake that hit earlier this evening. As you can see, we only have one earthquake listed in South America, which is a fallacy. There's about 20 other earthquakes here in South America. They show a 4.2. What a bunch of crap. What a bunch of crap. I want to go over here into Central America. Central America. This they have here in southern Mexico, off the coast of southern Mexico. It shows a 4.3 earthquake off the coast of southern Mexico. That's a moderate earthquake. Also 10 kilometers deep. Very shallow earthquake, 6.2 miles. Not a big deal. Why are they not showing anything else here in Central America? Why are they not showing anything else in Central America? What a crock of crap. What a crock of crap. Let me show you what else has happened in Central America, and then I'm also going to show you some pictures, some real pictures of what is going on in South and Central America. Okay? This is one of the things that really angers me. It angers me to no end. Okay? Over here in Costa Rica, Punta Anoles, Costa Rica. Here is a 3.4. A 3.4 just off the coast. Okay? Let me go on the coast. We have a 3.1. It's just a small earthquake. To the northeast, we have another 3.1. Right there. Another 3.1. Let's go north. We have a 3.2. A 3.2. And that's all fine and dandy. Why are they not talking about everything else? El Salvador, we have a 4.2. Just off the coast. We go up further, just off the coast, we have another 3.6. Okay? No big deal, right? Guatemala and southern Mexico. All of a sudden, we have all these earthquakes here in southern Mexico. Okay? But there's something else that you need to know that happened in Costa Rica today. Some of you might already know this, because I put it out over on our earthquake and volcano channels. Okay? There's something else that happened. Okay? This is very important. This is very important. Rincon de la Vieja. Rincon de la Vieja volcano erupted in Costa Rica today. Most people were unaware that it was even going to erupt because most of the seismologists and volcanologists that have been monitoring this area have been looking over in northern South America in Colombia, because they've been looking at Nevados de Ruiz in Colombia. They've been expecting that to erupt, but it hasn't. It's shown every sign that it was going to erupt, but this instead erupted down here in Costa Rica. This erupted up to 4 kilometers high. It's thrown ash over everywhere, and in fact, let me show you something else. It's causing lahars. It's causing lahars over in the rivers and streams down slope from the volcano. And there is video. If you go over into YouTube, I cannot play the video, otherwise I'll probably get a copyright strike, because I've not been able to contact any of the creators that put it out. But there is video showing Rincon de la Vieja erupting, and it's showing magnificent lahars, if you can call them magnificent. Big, huge flowing streams and river of lava, water, and debris. all kinds of rocks, trees, branches, all kinds of things going downstream through these rivers and streams in Costa Rica this evening. Rincon de la Vieja volcano erupting in Costa Rica today, right there. Okay? Now there's something else that I want to talk about. Okay? This is over east of San Francisco. East of San Francisco. I want to show you this. Okay? This is what gets me. Okay? We're showing 5 earthquakes here, right? 5 earthquakes. The largest being a 3.1. The others were all 2s. 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.1. They showed this to be a 3.1. Well, guess what, folks? USGS decided to lie to people. USGS decided to lie to people. Okay? Let me show you this in just a second as soon as I can finish moving this map around. Okay? This is unreal. This is literally unreal. I wish for some way that they wouldn't do this. Okay? I really do. It ticks me off. And everybody should be ticked off by this. Okay, let me show you this. Let me zoom in. And I'll actually show you the earthquakes here. Okay? This one here is a 2.7. That is not even in the same area as what it showed earlier. Okay? Let me bring that last one up for you. And I'll move it over so you can see it. Okay? Let me move it over here so you can really see it. Okay? Okay, for comparison. Okay, there's the one in Antioch right there. Okay? The USGS is on the right. Why are they not showing that earthquake where it was? They moved it. They are totally denying, they are absolutely totally denying the truth of where these earthquakes are. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're totally lying about these earthquakes. Okay? Over on the right is USGS right now. Right now. Okay? That is the 2.7. Okay? Over here, further to the north and west. Let me show you this one. This is a 2.4. North and west of that is a 2.5. We go south. This is a 1.7. This is a 2.8. Further south, we're seeing a 2.1. Further west, we're seeing a 1.9. Where did the other earthquakes go? Where did the other earthquakes go? They absolutely changed the location of these quakes. They're not where they said they were. They completely changed the location of where these quakes are. Okay? This is what USGS does. Yes, they've added 2 earthquakes. They've added 2 earthquakes. That's not bad. That's not bad. This is a small swarm of quakes. The largest was a 3.1. Why did they downgrade it 4 points? 4 points. That's almost a half magnitude downgrade. Over a 4.5 hour period. Why did they downgrade it over almost a half magnitude during a 4-hour period, almost 5-hour period? Okay? And they changed the location. It's not just they downgraded it, but they changed the location. You can see over on the left that I took a screenshot of it. I took a screenshot. Then 4.5 hours later, they moved it. They moved it. Now, that's bad enough. Okay? Now, let me do this. I'm going to take this down. I'm going to move this back over here. Hurricane Heather says they've now issued a tsunami warning. They've issued a tsunami warning for this, these two 7.3 earthquakes here. So let's go back down south and then we'll go back north, because there's a whole story to be had here in Northern California. Okay, now they removed one of the earthquakes. They've removed the earthquake. Just a few minutes ago I showed you two 7.3 earthquakes. They just removed one of them. Two separate and distinct earthquakes here. Two separate and distinct earthquakes, and they have completely removed one of them. Okay? I showed you those two earthquakes a minute ago. Two separate and distinct earthquakes, two separate and distinct locations, and they removed one of them. Isn't that wild? Not just wild, but it's factually lying to the public. Now I'm going to go over to the Tsunami Warning Center here. A 7.3 earthquake, 6 miles deep in the Kermadec Island region. They say there's a tsunami threat. So let's go down here to the Kermadec Islands. Okay, let's first look at Guam. Okay, right now, Guam, as a result of this earthquake, they're talking about a tsunami information statement number 1. No tsunami threat to Guam. No tsunami threat to Guam. Let's move to the U.S. West Coast. This is a tsunami information statement for Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and California. There is no tsunami danger to the west coast of North America or Alaska. Okay, let's continue. Let's go over to Hawaii. Tsunami information statement number 1. This statement is for information purposes only. No action is required. An earthquake has occurred in the preliminary parameters of the Kermadec Islands, a 7.3 magnitude earthquake. Based on all available data, a destructive Pacific-wide tsunami is not expected, and there is no tsunami threat to Hawaii. Okay, so now we talked about the entire western coast of North America and Hawaii. We talked about Canada. We talked about Alaska, British Columbia. How about American Samoa? Now we're going up to Samoa, which is north of Tonga. An earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 6.5 occurred in the Fiji Islands at 5:32 p.m. Monday night, April 17th in the Pacific. This was last week. There's no tsunami threat from that. Okay? No tsunami threat from that. I am looking here and I don't see any tsunami threat to anybody, but maybe in the let me monkey around here and see if I see anything over in southern hemisphere here. I don't see anything listed in the southern hemisphere at all. Possibly New Zealand. Possibly New Zealand south of the Kermadec Islands. Okay? Let me go down here again and let's check the Kermadec Islands here area, if they even have one here. They have not issued anything about the Kermadec Islands except the general region. But no threats towards Guam, no threats upwards of Samoa at all. Okay? Michael McKinney says a 6.8 is still big. You're absolutely right. They've downgraded to a 6.8. That's a full, that is a half magnitude downgrade. Downgraded to a 6.8, that is a half magnitude downgrade. From 7.3 to 6.8 is a half magnitude downgrade. That is BS. That is completely BS. Okay? We've seen them do this before and they're doing it again. A half magnitude downgrade. The Tsunami Warning Center still says there's a tsunami threat that's been issued, but I checked all the updates and there's no tsunami threat warning to anybody, but possibly New Zealand, and they don't even show that. But the Tsunami Warning Center still has this as a 7.3 magnitude earthquake. Okay? That's the latest on that. Let's go over here, back here to let's go back here to the islands here. Let's go back here to the islands. I want to show you what's actually happening here. Okay? You see that? That's a 7.3. This is a 7.3. They brought it back. They must be monitoring this channel. I just showed you where they took it down. Now they brought it back. And now they've taken it down again. They've taken it down again. Now they're still showing this as a 7.3. And I've refreshed it. Let me double check it. Hold on. I don't trust them. There's more than one way to skin a USGS map. Okay? Let's go back here, down here again. They still have this listed as a 7.3 magnitude earthquake. There's the information on that. Okay? Starbright Pam says Europe has it as 7.1. The EMSC agency has it as a 7.1. S. Nort says maybe it's a glitch. You're right. It could be a glitch. Again, they just showed us that there was 2 earthquakes and then they took it down again. Okay? That's typical of what this agency does, though. Okay? Now we've got 2 other earthquakes here. This one hit at 2041 Eastern Time. 2041 Eastern Time. This hit at 12:51. This is a foreshock. This also is a foreshock at 12:50. Or no, I'm sorry, that was at 12:51. This is at 12:24. This happened first. This one here, 4.9, 5.0, happened first. Okay, that was at 12:24 Eastern Time today. This one happened at 12:51. An actual another 5.0. The other one they downgraded to 4.9. This one they have is a 5.0 still, a foreshock. Then they have the 7.3. So they have not downgraded this one as was put out. But on the Europeans, the European map has it as a 7.1. Okay? We'll see. We'll keep monitoring this for the next 12 hours and see what happens between now and tomorrow morning. Let's go over to Hawaii. Okay, I want to show you what's going on in Hawaii before we go to Northern California again. Okay, off the southwest or southeast coast of Hawaii, the Big Island, we have a 2.0 earthquake here near Nauru, Hawaii. This is a undersea mount volcano. This is an undersea mount volcano here, a 2.0 earthquake. Further north here, just off the coast of Pahala, this is also a 2.6. Then just on the coast, a 2.1. Then we have a small swarm of earthquakes here. Okay, look at this. I'm not going to hit all of them. I'm just going to show you a handful. This is a 2.1. This is a 2.1. This, folks, is a 2.4. Over here to the southwest, it's a 2.1. Okay, now we go up to the southwestern slope of Mauna Loa. This is a 2.1 here. The southwestern slope of Mauna Loa. Then we go over to Mauna Loa itself. This is a 2.2. A 2.2. Further southwest, we have a 2.0. Mauna Loa is moving again, guys. Mauna Loa is recharging. About a month and a half ago, Mauna Loa erupted. Now it's recharging, and we see a lot of earthquakes happen here. Last week we showed you seismograms from Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea. They're very active, both of them. Over here west of Mauna Loa, off the coast of the Big Island, we have a 2.0 here. Okay? A 2.0. This could also be magma here, because right here, I'm going to zoom in here, right here we have Hualalai volcano. Hualalai volcano. Okay? So that's why I believe that they probably have that listed outside to try to show that nothing's going on at Hualalai. However, I also have seismograms that show different. Hualalai being very active, 3.0 magnitude earthquakes happening at Hualalai and Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. Now, what is really getting me now? Okay, and this is why I wanted to show you Hawaii right now. This is this is not Mauna. This is Kilauea volcano at Halemaumau crater. Kilauea at Halemaumau crater. Look at the earthquakes here. Two earthquakes down on the south rim. This is a 0.3 microquake, and this is a 2.0 earthquake. Minor earthquake up here. But just north and east of there, look at the swarms happening here. A 2.2, ladies and gentlemen. There's a 1.7. Over here is a 1.7. This is a 1.7. This is a 2.1. And a brand new earthquake that just happened, this is a 2.4. North and east of Kilauea. What's going on? Is magma underground moving away from Kilauea over here into the fern forest area and backwards over here to Leilani Estates? We don't know. We don't know. This earthquake right here, this is a 1.9 in fern forest. What bothers me is this right here. You see where this is in fern forest? This is also one of the areas where we had a great big huge fissure opened up. A great big huge fissure opened up. But the kicker is this. Look at this fault line here. This is the Helena slump. This is the Helena slump. Now we're getting an earthquake over here on the northeast side of the Helena slump. There is stories that some scientists believe that at some point in time, either before or after a major eruption here on the Big Island, that the Helena slump will fall off into the sea and cause a major tsunami that would affect the coast of North America, including Central America and Mexico. Okay? I'm not saying it's happening. I wanted to point this out. This is near a fissure that opened up after Kilauea and Pu'u'o volcanoes drained out almost 4 years ago. Okay? That may be what's happening again. The magma is leaving Kilauea and Pu'u'o and coming down here again. I don't know. I'm just giving you this information. We have no other earthquakes over here in Leilani Estates yet. We have had in past months, but not today. Okay? That's Hawaii. That's the update on Hawaii. Let's go back over here to San Francisco area, Northern California. Northern California, guys. This is still an active issue. Very much an active issue. Okay? There's this one here near Antioch, California. 7 earthquakes today, and they changed one of them a half magnitude. Typical USGS. Over here, this is Alamo, California. Why am I pointing out these 2 earthquake areas? Because, folks, guess where this is at Antioch? Can anybody tell me why I'm showing Antioch and paying special attention to Antioch? The Calaveras Fault, guys. Can you say Calaveras Fault? One of 3 of the most dangerous faults here in California. The Calaveras Fault, this is where the Antioch quakes are hitting, on the Calaveras Fault. This one here that just hit, it's on the Hayward. This is on the Hayward Fault. It's a 1.5 tremor on the Hayward. Over here, this is another issue. There's a small swarm of earthquakes hitting here. This is on the San Andreas Fault. This is off the coast of Colma, California, near Pacifica. Near Pacifica. A small swarm of quakes, or even a cache of quakes. Some may call it a cache of quakes. This one here is a 2.4. The others here are 1.6 and 1.8 tremors. So a 2.4 minor earthquake hit here on the San Andreas Fault. On the San Andreas Fault, just south of the entrance to San Francisco Bay. A big deal. Menacing Muskrat is asking a question. Why are these solar flares causing so many reactions to humans and animals? My poor pets are feeling something. Can you please answer this? Yes, I will. Folks, these solar flares are having an effect on humans. They always do. They always do. Can you say plasma energy? Plasma energy, guys? Let me show you something. This, folks, is the K index showing you how bad that flare was. They are calling it a moderate G4 flare. A G4 class flare. Okay, let me show you this. Let's zoom in here. This is a G8 class flare. The planetary K index is a K index of at least 8.0 to 8.2 on the K index. It's a major deal. It's a major deal. While this may be a moderate G-class flare, a G4 flare, it's still a big deal. The plasma energy affects humans. It affects human bodies. It affects human bodies. It affects animals of all kinds. It can alter their behaviors. The plasma energy can can alter their behaviors. And not just that, the first effects happen within hours after this thing released on Friday night, Saturday. Okay? This is the 23rd. It released on Friday. Within hours, the energy from this flare started affecting Earth. And it's not over. Okay? The major part of the plasma energy is supposed to reach us Eastern Time at midnight. It's supposed to reach the Earth at midnight Eastern Time tonight. And it's not going to be over even after Eastern Time. This energy is going to continue to affect the Earth for a couple more days. Okay? A big deal. Now, we just saw that 7.3 earthquake in the Kermadec Islands, and there may have actually been 2 of them. Okay, I showed you 2 separate and distinct earthquakes there. They took one of them down. That's typical behavior from this agency. Okay? These solar flares happen, and they happen to influence the Earth, including the plates. Okay? We've told you before on this program that when these earthquakes hit, the plasma energy that's released from the solar flares heats up the plates. All that gunk and grime, all the biological material that's held those plates in place, the sand and everything else, everything that's held those plates in place before gets heated up by that plasma energy, doesn't it? Then, when it heats up enough, all that gunk and grime heats up and acts like grease. And oil, and it releases the effect on the plates, and the plates move, causing earthquakes. That's what you can take to the bank, or your credit union, whatever. But that happens. It affects humans, it affects animals, and it's going to continue to affect us. The main part of that solar energy, that plasma radiation, is going to hit us at midnight. But right after that solar flare released, within hours, the effects of it started hitting the Earth then. So this has been already going on for probably close to 24 hours now. Actually more than that. Almost 48 hours now. Okay? That's what's going on. Yes, it affects everybody. Now, the other reason I want to talk about this, and this is also very important, okay? The reason I want to talk about it, see this flare right here that goes off to the right? Okay? This is the SDO, the Solar Dynamic Observatory satellite facing the sun. Now that little that little dime-sized plate there is preventing us from seeing the direct impact of the sun, because the strength of the sun, the heat and everything else would burn the lens and the optics of the satellite telescope. So we see the flare launching out to the right here. Okay? Now if you go, and I can't do it right now, I tried earlier. I tried to put the image here on this program, but it wouldn't let me. It showed the flare flying out. This is today. This is current. There's another solar flare that left the sun just this afternoon. Okay? So that's the other issue. This is not a just one-time thing. The sun is more active than it has been in a very long time. Muskrat is asking, how does this involve the Hall currents and the Peterson content and the concern? Okay, you asked a lot there. I don't know how it affects the Hall currents or the Peterson current. I do know about CERN, and this is bad. What I'm about to tell you is really bad. Okay? CERN is still operating. That electron collider in Switzerland is still operating. And it may have been what caused a solar flare, believe it or not. There's a school of thought that CERN caused this. Now, I can't be certain of it. That's only a school of thought. It's really only a school of thought. I don't know much about that. Okay? But it does happen. Starbright Pam says, do solar cycles cause slight ringing in the ears, or is it an Earth low or high frequency thing? Yes, it could be a low or high frequency thing. However, it may cause tendinitis. Ear ringing. It can affect the body, guys. It can affect everything that we do. It affects your head, your behaviors, it affects our joints, it affects hearts. And some people get a heart attack when these things hit. Some people have heart attacks when these things hit. This is a big thing. It might only be a G4 moderate class flare, but I've already shown you on the K index how it has affected us. This is a big deal. Grace for purposes, yeah, I feel it. You should feel it. You should feel it. I think everybody would be able to feel this. I have slight arthritis, very, very slight arthritis. It doesn't usually affect me much, except right here in the upper palm of my left hand here. Okay, I can feel it here. Sometimes I can feel it in my wrist, but mostly right here. Okay, it's happened. It's happened before. Carrington says, my hearing aids receive massive feedback as well. Oh yeah, it's going to affect electronics. Folks, when we have solar flares, anything that's electronic is affected. Okay? Everything that's electronic is affected. Okay? It affects air-to-ground communication with the International Space Station. It affects satellites. And in fact, with such a high K index, it could ground some satellites, meaning some satellites could be deorbited. Some satellites could be deorbited. Menacing Muskrat is asking, is this thing from the Bible when it says men's hearts will fail? I don't know. I don't know about that specifically. I know that scripture, with everything going on politically and humanitarian wise, men's hearts fail because they have lost hope. They have lost hope and belief, and their hearts will fail. They've lost hope and belief in Jesus Christ because the elites of this world have been preaching and preaching and preaching that there is no Christ, that there is no heaven, there is no resurrection. We talked about that this morning in our Sunday school class. Society would have us believe that none of this is true. I know it's true. I have a testimony that it's true. Okay? If you want to hear more about that, go to our Sunday school class this morning. And I will have explained this completely thoroughly because we talked about this. It all comes together. Okay? Aubrey says the scriptures say they fail for fear, and that's exactly right. Now, Lama's Light is talking about Nova Scotia. She's never been in Nova Scotia. Guess what, folks? Let me show you something else on the USGS. Okay? This is also important. Okay? And USGS actually showed it, which is blowing my mind. Okay? Let's go back all the way across the United States to the East Coast. Woohoo! We're back on the East Coast. Guess what, guys? Northwestern New York. Northwestern New York. Guess what happened today? We've had a swarm of earthquakes in northwestern New York. What happened? Here we have a 3.6 magnitude earthquake. This is in Adams Center, New York. This is the second set of earthquakes we've had here in Adams Center, New York. Last week we had another one. I believe it was a 2.7 here in Adams Center. This is an increase in magnitude. Almost a full step up to 3.6 from 2.7. Look at these other 5 quakes around it. Okay, look at this. This is a 1.5. This is a 1.4. This is a 1.3. This is a 1.3. This one down south here, this is a 1.5. So we've had a 3.6 here, and then we've had 4 tremors here around it. Not too surprising, actually. Why are we having earthquakes in New York? Anybody got a good answer for that? Why are we having earthquakes here? Folks, let's look at this. Let's look at this. We also have an earthquake down here. This is actually in the center and just east of the center of the New Madrid Fault. This is in Ridgely, Tennessee, on the east side of the New Madrid. This is a 2.1. Now, there's something else that you guys need to know. Okay, we have a craton issue here. Okay, we have a craton issue. The North American craton goes all the way up in here into Alaska and northern Canada, right? This is where it starts. It goes south from northern Alaska, Yukon Territory, Alaska, goes south through Alberta, Canada, into Montana, Wyoming, down into Utah, or Idaho, Utah, and Colorado. All the way down south here into New Mexico, into Texas a little bit, and then it goes back northeast into Oklahoma, where we have another earthquake here. This is a 1.6. Then over here in Ridgely, Tennessee, and this may be a craton type earthquake in the New Madrid seismic zone, a 2.1 earthquake. And then the craton takes a dip to the southeast, down here into Georgia, and then it proceeds to go northeast, all the way up here through the Blue Ridge Mountains, through the Appalachian Mountains, and continue north. This is the Eastern Continental Divide. The Eastern Continental Divide. Guess where this is? It's on top of the Continental Divide. Adams Center, New York, with a 3.6 and a bunch of tremors today. Why is that happening? Why is that happening? Let me take the USGS map down. I want to show you another slide here. I honestly didn't think we'd be getting into this, but it's fine. And I'm glad it happened. Okay? Let me show you this. This is the North American craton. The North American craton. I wanted to show you this. Muskrat, I'll get to your question in just a minute after I get through explaining the craton. The North American craton, folks, is what the Atlantic craton, or the Atlantic plate, is pushing. The Atlantic plate is pushing the North American craton, the North American plate, in a south-southwesterly direction. Okay? The deformed craton is the purple area. Okay? That means the area where I'm living right now is on the deformed craton because I am below the Continental Divide. All right? So that's the Eastern Continental Divide. That's where we get a lot of earthquakes, right? Absolutely. But the Atlantic plate is pushing the North American plate in a south-southwesterly direction. That's why we're getting earthquakes over here on the eastern side of the United States and Canada. Okay? So now you've got that explained as well. I haven't explained it in a little while, and I just thought I'd show it to you for kicks and giggles so you understand. Now, Menacing Muskrat has another question. Do you think that Planet X Nibiru is causing all this havoc? And is Planet X Nibiru Jupiter? No, it's not Jupiter, and no, it's not causing this havoc. It has nothing to do with it. Now, I know there are people that believe in Nibiru. I know that there are people that believe that it is having this effect. I do not believe it is having any effect on what is presently going on. If, in fact, there is the brown dwarf. If, in fact, there is a brown dwarf. There are a lot of people that believe there is a brown dwarf, and there's a lot of people that do not believe there is a brown dwarf. Okay? But I'm telling you, Nibiru does not have anything to do with what is going on. Okay? I had a big discussion last night with people from JPL about it. Okay? I had a huge discussion for about an hour and a half. It has nothing to do with it. And Jupiter is not Nibiru. Okay? Plain and simple. Okay? Lama's Light says, looks like the plate goes right over my house. Actually, it's not over your house, it's below your house. Okay? It's below your house. Menacing Muskrat is asking, is Planet X there? No, I don't believe it is. Now, that's my opinion. That's my opinion. And I'm talking from a scientific point of view. A scientific point of view. I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong. And there's people that would fight me over it. There's people that would fight me over it. And that's fine. We all have our opinions. I don't believe Planet X is there. I don't believe it. I just don't. Yes, there are a lot of people that I associate with in our chats that believe it. They talk a lot about it, and I've read every one of the articles about it. I've been through it up and down, backwards and forwards. From a scientific point of view, I don't believe it exists. That's just my point. Okay? I don't want to rain on anybody's parade or anything else. I don't believe it. I want to welcome my dear friend Carolyn Martin from Denver here. She's in the chat. Thank you, Carolyn, for being here. We appreciate and love you very much. Carolyn and I go way back 20 years ago. She's a very dear friend of mine. I appreciate her very much. Now, anyway, folks, I've got a lot more to talk about tonight. Okay? There's a lot more to talk about. I talked about Rincon de Aveyah erupting down in Costa Rica. It's not the only volcano erupting. It erupted up to, I believe, about 12,000 feet. Okay? It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Soon we're going to have another eruption of Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia. It's coming. I expect it any day, literally. Literally any day. Folks, we have another issue in California. We have a huge issue in California. Menacing Muskrat here says, thank you for your honesty, Ron. Do you think September 23rd, 2017 sign was the start of all this? Revelation 12? No. I don't believe that at all. Now, before I get back into earthquakes or anything else, we can talk all day about scriptures. And this is Sunday. Okay? I read my scriptures every day of the week. I read them a lot even on Sundays. A lot. A ton. Someone could say I'm a scriptorian. Somebody could say, Ron, you are more than that. Because I know the scriptures backwards, forwards, and inside out. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. Okay? Yes, I've read the scriptures. My scriptures are so well marked, it's not funny. One set of scriptures I put away because I can no longer even open them without having pages fall out. And heaven forbid that would happen. They are well marked and well used. I've had scriptures that I've taken overseas with me to Sweden and I brought back, well used and falling apart. The scriptures right now are a little bit larger print, which is fine. I bought them for that reason, although now my eyes are just fine. Anyway, getting back to Muskrat's question. Folks, I've studied the scriptures. Now, you and I have all been around this block several times. We know the position of our countries, our society today. We've talked about it, and we're not going to stop talking about it because it's affecting our lives, our livelihoods, our families, our children and our children's children. It's affecting everybody. It's going to turn our planet upside down and backwards. It's going to turn our society on its ear. Going into Revelations, I believe the sixth seal has opened up. I'll say that again. I believe the sixth seal has opened up. The seventh seal has not. The seventh seal is not open. Now, there's a lot of things that Revelations talks about. There's a lot of mysteries that people don't understand. But as we go forward in our history, we go forward in our lives, a lot of the mysteries of the scriptures will be revealed to us. Because there's not one person that completely understands Revelations. I don't care who they are. I have talked about Revelations. I've talked about the entire book of scriptures. Not too many people understand Revelations. There are a few people that do, but that's about it. But again, I don't believe the seventh seal is opened up. Why do I say that? Because, folks, this is the point that I'm coming to. If we have gone into the tribulation that the scriptures talk about, that people talk about, we have just barely entered it. I do not think we're in the middle or at the end of the tribulation. Okay? We have a lot more to go through than we've been going through so far. The tribulation may have just started. And if so, there is so much more hell and crap that we're going to have to go through that we're not even realizing what we're going through now. It's going to get so much worse. So much worse. Texas lady says, I think we are in the last days for sure. Absolutely we are. I totally understand that. Heather, I think they're talking about the Revelations. The book of Revelations. Okay? The seventh seal goes into a completely different era that we have not even gotten to yet. And when we get into that time period, probably in November or early December this year, we are going to be talking about Revelations, and I will break down the individual book chapter by chapter, scripture by scripture. There are a lot of things in there that are very, very important and very, very interesting. But we'll be getting into that in November, going into December. I want to make sure people understand what's going on. Okay? Michael McKinney says, I think the worst is yet to come. Texas lady a few minutes ago said here in the chat that yes, we're in the last days. Absolutely. We are in the latter days. There's no doubt in my mind that we are in the latter days. I thought, honestly, back in the 70s, when people said we were in the latter days, I'm going, okay, there are things going on. I understand that. That's cool. But things have gotten so much worse since I was a kid, since I was a teenager, since I was a young adult. Things have gotten so much worse. Things are bad. Things are very bad. Okay? Diana Lars says, I think we haven't even begun to see the fresh hell awaiting us. I don't think so. I don't think we have. Don Patoka says, you got to finish the sixth seal first. Don's right. Don's right. I encourage you guys to go and read in Revelations about the sixth seal. I don't want to get into that tonight. I could spend 2 hours talking about just the sixth seal and the opening of the sixth seal. I could spend 2 hours discussing just that and nothing else. There's so much going on. And guess what, guys? If we look at today's society and the crap that we're in, it exactly describes the sixth seal, the opening of the sixth seal, and what is happening. You can see it. That's why I'm saying that. Richard Smith says, I was playing God Be With You Till We Meet Again on my guitar after Ron's service today. I appreciate that, Richard. I really do. That's my favorite hymn. And I want that hymn sung at my funeral, if I even die. That remains to be seen. There's a dear friend of mine from a lot of years ago, friend of my family, and he's gone now. But he said I'd be alive to see the day Jesus Christ comes back to earth. And I hope I am. I truly hope so. But folks, we have a lot to go through. We have a lot to go through. And occasionally, sometimes I think that I'm not going to be here much longer. But I don't think I've even come to that point in my life yet. I think there is so much more that the Lord wants me to do. Okay? Menacing Muskrat is asking, why is God putting us through all of this, Ron? I feel so bad for folks being jabbed and finances falling apart. We all know why people are being jabbed. The elites of our society, and it's not just here in the United States, it's around the world. I could talk about that all night long too. There are people dying right and left. I saw a hospital occupancy list just last week. 86% of the people in ICUs were people that got that. 86% of the people in ICUs today are people that got boosted and got that stick. Now, for saying that, I'll probably get tossed off the air. They've done that before. The elites don't want us saying that. The FBI has told YouTube to remove people that have said that. They told Facebook to do the same thing. And by the way, guys, guess who bought Facebook? If it's true, guess who just bought Facebook? Elon Musk. And there's talk of Elon Musk buying YouTube as well. Yeah, guys. And I would love that. Because then some of this crap that the FBI has been doing to social media will stop. Yes, the FBI and this administration have done that so that we would not talk about it, would not be able to even discuss it. Fact. Fact. And if they knock me off the air, that's exactly why. Messing Muskrat says, where's Ron's backup channel? If I go to a backup channel, it'll probably be Rumble. If I get knocked off this channel again, I will probably go to Rumble. For those of you that are here, be advised. My last channel had almost 20, we were within 34 people of having 25,000 subscribers. After 4 years, we were within 34 people of having 25,000 subscribers. Now, we're just barely, and I mean just barely, below 900. Right before I went on, we had 896 subscribers. For those of you, and I've already heard from a couple of you that have not been notified when we've come on the air. Carolyn Martin, my dear friend, had that same problem. And I'm telling her just what I'm telling you guys now. Check and make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Check your subscriptions and make sure you're still subscribed to this channel. If you're not, subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen, and when you do that, there's a little bell in a circle. Click on that bell icon. A drop-down menu of 3 items will come up. Click on the word ALL, all. That should get you notified when we come on the air. Now, my dear friend Don Patoka, who is not just a dear friend of mine, he is one of the mods here. He gets unsubscribed on almost a weekly basis, sometimes more often than that. He has to check his subscription several times a week to make sure he's still subscribed. And he checks the notification as well. And they still don't notify him every time we come on the air, which is sad because, folks, he's a dear friend. He's a mod on this channel, and he still gets unsubscribed by YouTube. And yet YouTube tells me the only people they unsubscribe are people that have left YouTube. That's a lie as well. They unsubscribe people from channels because they don't want some channels to be effective. They don't want some channels to be successful, and this is one of them. This is one of them. I don't really care what YouTube does anymore. If I have to leave here, I'll go to Rumble. Rumble doesn't censor anyone. The only problem there is I'll be paying a lot of money to even use Rumble. It was $25, now it's at least $35, maybe more. They keep raising it. John Patoka says he was unsubscribed three times in a row. Yesterday. Go figure. Yeah, Kimberly Hopkins says Don is one of their favorites. Oh yeah. They must not like Don. They don't like me for sure. And now someone just said I had 903 subs now. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And guess what, folks? There's something else. 25% of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. 25%. Imagine if 25% more people subscribe to this channel, we would be over 1,000 subscribers, and we would have our what do they call it, super chat back. All we have to have is 1,000 subscribers, and we could have our super chat back, as well as a lot of other great things could happen. Okay? They don't want us to do it. I hope we have, and I hope we can. Storm Rider says, I've never gotten a notification. Not one, but they've never unsubscribed me. Please keep checking your subscription. And I'm sorry they don't notify you. That's typical from what I've seen of YouTube. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Texas lady says, 4 years ago in April, she found this channel. She found it right after I first went on the air. 4 years ago. 4 years ago, April 3rd. Which means now we're 20 days past being on the air, 4 years. And yet I had to have another channel because they'd taken mine down. And I checked today, guess what? None of my videos are even left, which means they've taken my channel completely down. They said a hacker got into it. My Gmail and my program was taken off the air. My Gmail was taken down and my program was taken down. They said a hacker. And I tried to get it back. And Google prevented me from getting back. I'm almost sure Google was responsible. Google owns YouTube. That's one reason why I hate Google. I can't stand Google. Yet they do what they do. Anyway, I'm sorry to went off on a tirade. I'm not a tyrant. I'm not a tyrant at all. Menacing Muskrat is here on the chat. He's saying, we are the fig tree generation as of 1948. Israel became their own nation and we are in the last days. Yes, we are. We've been in the last days for a very, very long time, probably before 1948. A lot of things have happened. A lot of things have happened. Anyway, folks, I wanted to tell you tonight a little bit about yours truly. When I first started this channel 4 years ago, I put a little bit of a biography for me on this channel. And there was a reason for it. I wanted people to at least get to know me on an individual basis. There's a reason for that. I wanted people to get to know me and to trust me. And I thought that was probably one of the best ways to do that. And so I gave you a little bit of a biography about me. There's a lot more to talk about me than that little bit of a biography. Menacing Muskrat says, I'm Mrs. Menacing Muskrat. Oh, I'm glad you clarified that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So you're a menacing muskrat. That's great. Anyway, guys, I've been around the block a few times. I've been married a few times and divorced. There's a lot that's gone on in my life. When I was born, it was in a town called Pocatello, Idaho, that some of you know about. And it was a small town of maybe 25,000 people. It's now a bustling town of probably 150,000, maybe more. I have not even been in Pocatello, and I want to say since about 1991 or 1992. I took a family trip up there, and yes, I have been. My dad's funeral was in 2017, so I was back up in Pocatello in 2017. I have 5 other brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest of 6. These right here are 4 of my siblings and my father. This picture was taken about, I want to say 2003, 2004. That's my family. I'm trying to find a picture that I wanted to show you here. You can look at my family here. That was taken at a family reunion up in northern Idaho. I went up there for the reunion. I'm trying to find this picture, so if you just bear with me, there's a reason that I'm trying to find this picture. I lived in Pocatello until I was like 11. Pocatello means a lot to me to this day. One of my cousins lives in Idaho Falls, which is north of Pocatello by about 25 miles. In her yard, she has a beautiful house in Pocatello. I mean, in just south of Idaho Falls, in a town called Blackfoot. She lives in Blackfoot. I'm sorry I said Idaho Falls. She lives in Blackfoot. She lives a long distance from Yellowstone. I went to visit her one year, about 1993, 1994, and I saw lava rock coming up in the grass. And around that lava rock was all yellow grass, yellow-brown grass. That's because the acid of the lava was eating up the grass. And now her yard is lava. Her yard is lava. Her basement is breaking. The floor and the walls of her basement is breaking because the lava is pushing up from underneath the ground. Her whole yard is lava rock now. She has no more green grass. It's sad. But that's one of the reasons I know that the Yellowstone volcano is coming back. The lava rock is pushing up. Even up in Rexburg, which is just south of Yellowstone, they've got a huge lava rock problem in Rexburg, Idaho. Huge. Gosh, okay, here it is. This was me back in 1975. This was me when I was a missionary in Sweden in 1975. I was called and went to Sweden to be a missionary there. Sweden was the ancient home of my family. And I mean ancient because my distant relatives still live in Sweden. The Davidsson, the Davidson family. They go by Davidsson in Sweden. David's son. So I went, what was normally a 2-year mission, I was there 2.5 years. I was extended. I traveled from southern Sweden all the way to Norrland in the north part of Sweden, past and east of a town called Umeå. Umeå was about, I want to say, 70 or 80 miles south of a place called Kiruna, which is at the Arctic Circle. Just north of Kiruna is the Arctic Circle. We took a bus to the Arctic Circle one time. We stood there and saw the sign that says Arctic Circle. We had to be careful that we did not take a picture towards Russia, or the Russian guards could grab us and take our camera, or they could arrest us and nobody hear from us again. That's the way Russia was up there in that day, and I still believe they are today. Menacing Muskrat says, as in son of David. Yes, David's son. If I was a David's son, I would be actually David's son, literally. Okay, my grandmother was a Davidson, David's son. Okay, her name was Lenora Christina Sarah Davidson. So she was where I got my Swedish heritage from. My grandfather, on the other hand, my dad's father, was from Wales. So I have some Welsh in me as well, and English and German. I'm Heinz 57. The majority of my heritage comes from Sweden. So I got to preach the gospel to the people in Sweden. And I still, to this day, can speak Swedish fluently. There was a lady that contacted me this morning on Skype that saw my picture and my profile there. And I sent a message back to her in Swedish. Because yes, I still speak fluent Swedish. Now, there's a lot that you guys don't know about me. Before I went to Sweden, I was a little guy, a real little guy, that palled around with my dad's mother, my grandmother, and she spoke fluent Swedish to us. And no, it didn't really stick, but I remember her speaking Swedish to us as we were rummaging out in her backyard, in her garden, bringing vegetables into her to clean and cut for our meals. I remember baking cookies with my grandmother and her speaking Swedish to us. When I got called to my mission, I went to a Swedish language training place up in Rexburg at what they called Rick's College, which is now BYU Rexburg, Brigham Young University Rexburg campus. But I went to a Swedish language school there, and 2 months later I left there and went to Sweden. And I was pretty good, but I still didn't feel like I knew the language. Kimberly Hopkins says, my dad's parents came over the boat from Sweden, as did mine. Thank you for saying, letting us know that. Anyway, guys, there was a lady, and yes, this is Sunday. And yes, I get a little bit emotional about this, because this was one of the biggest parts of my life. One of the biggest things happened to me. This lady in Trollhättan, Sweden, which is in south central Sweden. Göteborg was on the southwest coast of Sweden. I visited Göteborg on several occasions. Göteborg in English is Gothenburg. I visited Gothenburg, Göteborg. Anyway, further north in Trollhättan, where I was working, I met a lady, and I don't remember her name. She was a member of the church there that I belonged to and still do, and she asked me to give her a blessing. And I was just new there. I hadn't been there for very long, maybe a couple months. I don't remember. Been too long ago. She asked me to give her a blessing, which I did. But before I did that, while on the phone with her, because she called me and asked me to give her a blessing, before that I told her that I had someone else here with me that speaks fluent Swedish, that could speak her language and give her a blessing in the same words that I would speak from God, telling her what God expects of her and to heal her from her afflictions. She hardly went out anywhere because she was always sick. Okay? Michael McKinney says, where Volvo is from. You're right. Trollhättan, Sweden. Trollhättan, Sweden. I went to the Volvo dealership, visited there in Husqvarna. Husqvarna is actually Swedish, guys. Those of you that ridden Husqvarna motorcycles, it's from Sweden. I went to the factory there. I rode past the factory on my bicycle many times. Everybody has bicycles. Only a few people have cars. A lot of people get around on bikes there. But anyway, I got asked to give her a blessing, and I told her that I hardly spoke the language, that there was someone else here that could give her a blessing in her own language. And she said, no, Ron, I want you to do it. So that's what I did. After hanging up the phone, I told her we would be over in a couple hours or whatever it was. And I said, after I hung up from the phone, I asked the other brethren that were there with me, the other missionaries, if they would give me a blessing so that I would be able to speak the language and be able to give her a blessing in her native tongue that she would understand. And guess what? From that point forward, I spoke fluent Swedish. And a couple hours later, we went over to her home, and I laid my hands on her head and gave her a blessing. Now, folks, I don't normally talk about this because I consider this to be sacred, something very special. But I wanted to tell you this because I think it's important, that it's something that you folks need to know about me and my life. I have been truly blessed throughout my life. I had goodly parents who were an example for me and my family. A few of our families strayed. Two of our sisters don't even talk to us boys. They're jealous of what we have or what we do. I don't know. I don't care anymore. I've had a daughter that's walked away from me. I've had an ex-wife that's done nothing but badmouth me to my own children, where I haven't had a relationship with my kids in about 20 years now. Go figure. But I was raised by goodly parents. Great parents who helped me. Great parents that loved each and every one of us. We had great upbringing. Our aunts and uncles loved each and every one of us. When we lived in Idaho, and even years after that, when we were in North Dakota and San Diego, we went back and forth between Idaho and North Dakota, and back and forth between Idaho and Utah and San Diego, because we had aunts and uncles, and we had cousins that we were very close to, like our own brothers and sisters. Growing up, when we were very young, we played in my grandmother's yard together every Sunday. Every Sunday. We had a family gathering of all the aunts and uncles and grandkids every Sunday at my grandmother's house. It was only a small 2-bedroom house. That's where we had Thanksgiving many years, until we moved into a bigger house where my aunt was there, in her big house that my dad helped build for her. My dad and I helped build on their addition to their house, upstairs and downstairs, where they had a bigger house that could accommodate our huge family. Yes, a huge family. My dad's aunts and his uncles. My aunts and uncles are cousins. All of us there. We knew our brothers and sisters. We knew our aunts and uncles, our extended family. One of my grandmother's brothers, his name was Eskil Davidson. When I was in Sweden about 1976, I served in a town called Eskilstuna, Sweden, that Uncle Eskil Davidson was named after. Uncle Eskil Davidson was named after. Now, I want to show you something. This is a cup. This is a mug that I picked up in Eskilstuna. This, I'm showing you a statue in a park. A statue in the park. See the man, this man's hand? Allegedly, this is a hand of God holding a man up. Okay, this is the town of Eskilstuna that was my dad's uncle Eskel was named after. This is the state church that burned down after I moved away from this town. Within, I think it was about a month or so after I left the town, the state church burned down. The state church was a Lutheran church. Okay? These are some of the other artifacts that were in Eskilstuna. This is the Eskilstuna 5.9 earthquake just happened in the South Sandwich Islands. So now we've had two, a 5.3 and a 5.9 in the South Sandwich Islands today. This is one of the blacksmith shops in Eskilstuna that still stood before I left there. I want to show you that because Sweden still means a lot to me. I have a few remembrances of Sweden. I wish I had the Swedish flag that I got before I left Sweden. I wish I still had that. I don't anymore. Anyway, guys, I've given you a little history about me. Right before I came home, I was transferred to a place in northern Sweden, north and east of Umeå. I got to know a lot of people in Umeå, Sweden. A lot of beautiful, wonderful, loving people in Umeå, Sweden. I was actually able to see a polar bear in the winter time that was there basking in the sun on a cold winter day there in Umeå at, guess what? The City Hall complex in Umeå, Sweden. A polar bear. Anyway, towards the end of my mission time in Sweden, I got transferred to a place that never had missionaries there. Never had any kind of Christian missionaries there in that town. And I got moved there. What is special about that? After I got moved there, my mother sent a letter to Sweden telling me that my brother was going to leave, my brother Mark was going to leave on his mission to Italy, and that she wanted me to come home for a family picture that we still have. It's the only family picture that we had, a formal family picture that we had. And we still have, because my mother asked me to come home. I had just been there in that town 1 month. So I'd been there 2.5 years by that time. The day I left, one of my buddies there was a fellow missionary. He was a young man who used to live in the same town that I did, in Pocatello. His last name was Martineau. He and I were there, and he asked what I wanted to do for the last 3 hours before I left to come back to America. And I said, let's go out to this area. We had a map on our wall in our apartment that neither one of us had been to. I said, let's go over and talk to people over here. So that's where we went. So we went over to this area, and we had a bike lock with us, a great big bike lock, and we lashed our bikes to this light pole there in this neighborhood. And he says, what do you want to do? I said, let's go over to this house right over here. It was a yellow house with white trim around it. A big yellow house with white trim. And I said, let's go over there and talk to these people. He goes, okay. So we walked over there. And again, I want to tell you that we were the first Christian missionaries in that town, ever. we knocked on the door. The husband answered the door, and his wife stepped in behind him. And he said, "We've been waiting for you." We had just barely introduced ourselves to him and his wife, and he says, "Come in, we've been waiting for you." So for the next couple hours, we taught him the gospel of Jesus Christ. And he said, "Can you come back another day? We have a lot more questions for you." And we said, "Yes, we can, but I won't be here. My buddy Martino will be here." But I was going back to the United States. I was going to catch a train from there to Stockholm, and it was going to be like a 12-hour overnight train to Stockholm. And then I'd be in Stockholm and go over there and catch a plane and get on a plane to go back to New York and into San Diego. Anyway, the first door we knocked on, the last day I was in Sweden. The man opens his door and says, "We've been waiting for you. We've been praying that someone like you would come talk to us." And then what happened? We knock on his door just like he thought would happen. Just like he and his wife had been praying for. And they invited us in to teach them the gospel, which we did. Later, when I got back to the States, my buddy Martino told me, and I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but we were boys raised in Pocatello. We swam in the local canal together, played soldiers and all sorts of stuff there in Pocatello. We're very good friends. And we were there in Sweden together. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. I hadn't seen him for most of my life before that. After we left Idaho, we moved to Fargo, North Dakota. "Where's Fargo?" I asked. "Out in the middle of Boomstick, Egypt, for all that matters at the time." I grew to love people in Fargo. I made a lot of wonderful friends in Fargo who I'm still friends with today. I grew to love San Diego. I lived there 27, 28 years. I love people there. I love people in Sweden. These people in Sweden that I met that day with Mr. Martino, that Martino and I taught the gospel to. My buddy and his other friend that came to be with him when I left, they baptized him. They baptized him and his wife. So now you know a little bit about me. I was able to bring many people into the gospel of Jesus Christ as a missionary that had never heard about the gospel, ever, never. All they heard was what the Lutheran Church told them, which was not completely correct. I found that out as well. But folks, I wanted to tell you that story just so you get to know a little bit more about me and my beliefs and my thoughts and my prayers for each one of you. I have come to love the gospel of Jesus Christ. I have come to know that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I've come to know that each one of us are sons and daughters of God. Each one of us are sons and daughters of God. I know that. Each one of us have the ability to know more about God. Each and every one of us have the possibility to return back to our Heavenly Father and live in His kingdom. If you and I want to. If you and I do what we need to do to return to Him. Yes, I'm telling you a lot of things tonight. Things that you probably didn't know. But it's Sunday night. This is something that I've been thinking about for several days now. I wanted to tell you more about me, so you would understand where I come from. My family was not political, or that political. My family was mostly raised conservatively for the most part. Okay? I won't even go into all that right now. It doesn't matter. But I was raised to love everybody. I was raised to love everybody. My buddy Al Sanchez is here. He says, "We love you, Ronnie. You're an amazing young man. We're grateful that you are in our EMA family. Lives." Well, folks, I am grateful for every one of you. And I'm grateful to be a part of your lives. I'm grateful to be able to help each other and to help bless our lives. I am grateful for the opportunity that you have given me to help you. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to help you and help you to survive what's going on. That's why I told you this long story tonight. I wanted you to know me, because this is how I was raised, to love and honor other people and their lives. I would do anything for anyone, and most people that I know that. Folks, I know what I'm telling you is true. I spend a lot of my time every day doing research to be able to give you information. I've been steeped in this. I've studied space science since I was a kid. From the time I was a little kid, even in diapers, I sat in front of my parents' TV watching a space shot go off. Alan Shepard being shot into space, and John Glenn, Walter Schirra, Gus Grissom, and many of the others. I almost knew them. The only real astronaut I met were two of them, Walter Schweikert, because he came to Fargo with us and did an explanation of Apollo 13 with me, and Walter Schirra. Later in my life in Denver, I went to a gathering in just outside of Denver in the mountains. There's a big round house up there, a huge round house up in the mountains just west of Denver. And a famous person, I don't even remember the name of that person, that was an architect. He was an architect, and he had built this great big huge house up there in the mountains of Denver. A very famous architect. I wish I remembered his name. He's no longer with us. But there was a meeting of conservative people up there at that house that I got invited to. That's how I met Walter Schirra, a great man, a great astronaut. Anyway, guys, this is how I was raised. I love space. I don't necessarily love politics. Back when I was in my 20s, I was a campaign manager for Ron Packard. He had been a school superintendent, he had been a city councilman, and then he was elected mayor of Carlsbad, California. Back in the day, I think it was 1980 something. the beginning of the 80s. He ran for Congress, and he was running on a write-in ticket. Never had been done in history. Never had any congressman in the United States been elected on a write-in ticket. The Republican nominee was a dirtbag, a real dirtbag, whose father later threatened Ron Packard's life, and he went to jail. In that write-in election, Ron Packard won hands down. Over 75% of the vote Ron Packard got. The other man, I remember his name, but I won't badmouth him. But he was a dirtbag. The other man lost the election. His dad went to jail. I was Ron Packard's campaign manager. I would die and do anything for Ron Packard. Yes, Frank Lloyd Wright. You're right. That's exactly it. Menacing Muskrat came up with the guy's name. Frank Lloyd Wright. Boy, I said that right. Ha! Anyway, guys, I was campaign manager for Ron Packard, a congressman. I flew a couple times to Washington with him. One time as his bodyguard and his campaign manager. I met Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was elected. And 4 years later, he was running for re-election. And this is one of the final times that I helped Ron Packard get re-elected. Congressmen ran for election every 2 years. Senators ran for election every 4. So every 2 years, I was asked to help Ron Packard get elected. After 6 years of helping him get elected, all we had to do is put his name on the ballot and he'd get elected. That year when Ronald Reagan came back and went for his re-election, on that day of the election, Ronald Reagan stopped in San Diego. And as I found out, Ronald Reagan stopped in San Diego on his way to go to Washington when he was first elected President of the United States. So it was not unusual that he came back to San Diego and held a rally for his re-election the day of the election. And Ron Packard coerced me to go there to the campaign rally. Yes, I wanted to go, but you had to have a ticket to go. And I knew I didn't have a ticket. That morning of the rally, Ron Packard called me and said, "Can you stop by the office? I want to give you a ticket to go to the rally tonight this afternoon for Ron Packard." Or Ronald Reagan, I'm sorry. So I said, "Sure, Ron, I'll stop by the office in Carlsbad and pick up a ticket to go to the rally," which I did. Well, when I got to the rally, I parked my car. I made sure I was not carrying a NUG, which I had because I was a cop at the time. I made sure I wasn't there as a cop. But when I got to the site of the rally, it was in the Mission Valley Shopping Center parking lot. Mission Valley Shopping Center was a huge mall. A huge mall. And I got there, and at the entrance to the rally, there was a huge magnetometer. Huge. It went feet over my head when I walked through it. But when I walked through it, I still set it off. And I'm going, what the heck? I'm not armed or anything. So anyway, the Secret Service guy that was there said, "Come over here, Mr. Tyler." I'm going, oh crap, he knows me. He knows me. And that was the first tip-off. So he wands me down. I don't have anything on me, and he leads me to the stand where all the dignitaries were. Sweet Polly Purebred has got a question. I'll answer that in a few minutes. Anyway, the Secret Service guy leads me to the stand where all the dignitaries were going to be sitting. He leads me to my chair where I would be sitting. Then I'm going, oh my gosh, Ron Packard set me up. I'm going, okay, this is cool. At least I'll get to see Ronald Reagan, President Reagan. And it was a wonderful thing. Off, if I was facing the crowd, off to my left, down alongside the crowd, Ronald Reagan's motorcade came up. And all the Secret Service, all the press that were not already there got out of the cars behind the president. And the president came into the crowd, waving at the crowd as he did, waving to everybody. Then he came up alongside the crowd, stepped up about 3 or 4 stairs to the reviewing stand, and he passed right towards me and walked right towards me. He put his left hand on my shoulder and shakes my hand, looking me right in the eye, and says, "Well, Ron, it's good to see you. I've heard so much about you." That's how I met Ronald Reagan. I had been set up. I had been set up to meet the President of the United States. Go figure. And one of my best friends was the MC at that rally. What a deal that was. So anyway, that's how I was involved in politics. I found out over a lifetime that politics stink. Politics stink. And I want nothing more to do with politics. Period. Nothing. And even after that, I was thinking of running for mayor of Vista, California, where I lived at the time. I was thinking of running for mayor. But at that point in time, my ex-wife, who had cheated on me, decided she was going to divorce me and kick me to the curb right before the election. About a year before the election. So no, I could not run for mayor of that town because I would get blasted by my ex-wife and any of her other cronies, and I would not have won the election, and I would have spent all kinds of money and other people's money without getting elected because I had a bad news ex-wife. Anyway, I hate politics now. Can't stand politics. Okay? They're a bunch of crooks. Bad people. Anyway, that's my story. I've done a lot of things in my life. But the one thing that I have not finished doing is being a missionary. I've been teaching the gospel of Jesus Christ for a very, very, very long time. And I'm not going to stop. When I was asked to teach gospel doctrine classes, my eyes brightened up, I was told. This is something that I've always done. I've always been teaching about the gospel. I'm not going to stop. That's my calling. I know that for a fact because I know Jesus Christ lives. He's the author of our salvation. Anyway, folks, Polly Purebred asked me a question. She says, am I going to have Terry Rumpel on the show? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. A couple of years ago, Terry Rumpel was on this show with me 2 or 3 times a week. I thought a lot about Terry Rumpel. I considered him one of my best friends. What I didn't realize is that Terry was going to start his own channel, which I don't care one way or another about. But he told me about it on my program. He said, I've been keeping something from you. Can I talk to you about something that's happening that's going to be a great thing? And I said, sure, but I was lambasted. I was lambasted by my best friend. telling me he was going to start his own channel. And I just thought he was going to start his own channel and that was going to be okay, no problem. But then Terry Rempel cut me off. I used to talk to him all the time. Almost every day I would talk to Terry and he would talk to me. We'd call back and forth to each other. But Terry Rempel cut me off. He blocked me on Messenger because we primarily talked on Messenger because it was too costly to make international calls to Canada. Even though I had free calling on my plan, it was too costly for both of us to converse back and forth, so we used Messenger. But Terry blocked me. And I have sent things to Terry, and he's never answered to that day. For whatever reason, Terry cut me off. I did not cut him off. And Terry, if you are listening, you're welcome to call me. But I would like an explanation why you blocked me. Why that you didn't tell me ahead of time before telling everybody on my show that you were starting your own channel. I didn't know anything about it. Terry blew me away. So I'm telling you what I'm telling you. I considered Terry a very dear friend. I consider him a friend now. But he has not talked to me in about 2 years, for whatever reason. Yes, between you and I, it doesn't matter. Between he and I think he owes me an explanation. And yes, I've watched his show on occasion, but not in the last while. And that's okay. Yes, I know he talks about earthquakes. I know he talks about Cascadia. He wrote the paper on Cascadia that I've shared with you. Yes, I believe everything that Terry told us about Cascadia and more. And now I've done my own research, and I know probably just as much as he does. I'm pretty good at it. In fact, I'm darn good at it. None of us are experts, but I try to show you what I know. I try to be honest with you and open about what is going on. Because I want to save you. I want to save me. I want to save me and you. I want to bring us to heaven all together. Some time ago, I had a dream. I thought it was a vision that Terry and I were preaching and talking to people about Jesus Christ. Terry was in a long sleeve shirt, button-up long sleeve shirt, and I was wearing a sports coat. But he and I were talking to people about Jesus Christ, a large group of people. And then all of a sudden he was no longer around. And I've missed Terry. I miss Terry a lot. Folks, we're still in the land of Easter time. Why do I say that? It's Easter time still. It's April. In April, I think of Easter. And there's a good reason why. This is a season of forgiveness. This is a season of resurrection. This is a season of new beginnings. This is a season of new beginnings. And I will always think of Easter as a very special occasion. And there's a reason for it. Because I know my Savior. I know who Jesus Christ is. Not only do I know that he is, and he was, and he still will be, the Savior of the world, our Savior, our elder brother, even Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Someone was just saying that he lives. Brothers and sisters, I know that he lives, that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He's my brother. He's my Savior. He is my King, my ever-living head. I know that. Just as I sit here, I know that. Since you guys, one of you brought it up, and since I played this song on Easter Sunday, well, I'm going to play it for you again. Brothers and sisters, I'm closing this show now. We've got 138 thumbs up, which I greatly appreciate. I love each and every one of you. We have 108 people watching, which I also greatly appreciate. Before I lost that other channel, we had upwards of 250 people watching the program at the end of our program. So I'm very grateful to have 108 people watching. And I hope and pray that it's a lot more than that. Because YouTube lies. And I know that because I've done the research. YouTube doesn't tell the truth when it comes to that. Demon Catman says, thank you, Ron. Blessings to you. Lovely to hear your stories and some of your life. One day, guys, I'm going to take a program and talk to you realistically about my life. My brothers and sisters, my kids, the whole bit. So you know me inside and out, like I would love to know you. But folks, I'm going to leave you with some music that's very dear and near to my heart. This song, brothers and sisters, is by the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square in Salt Lake City, Utah. This is a song that I love to pieces. And I actually ought to play two songs. In fact, I will. After this song, I'm playing called I Know That My Redeemer Lives. The second one is I Believe in Christ. Folks, the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square singing, I Know That My Redeemer Lives. Have a good night, folks. God bless you. God be with you till we meet again. Here is the Tabernacle Choir.
See
Now, brothers and sisters, this is a tabernacle at choir at Temple Square. I believe in Christ. Brothers and sisters, that was the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square singing I Believe in Christ. I'm going to play one final hymn for you, which is the statement that I make at the end of our programs every day. God be with you till we meet again, by the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square.
God be with you till we meet.